So, how is Erie County?
And the state of Erie County is strong.
Well, you knew he'd say that. County Executive Mark Poloncarz shuffled onto the Shays stage Thursday to share some of the things he wants to do in the next year. The county executive spoke for more than 45 minutes, and as good as I am at journalisming, I can't explain it all in 2.5 minutes. But some of the hits from the county executive include promoting energy efficiency, especially with indoor illumination.
We will be rolling out a program very soon where our residents can turn in a low-efficient bulb for a high-efficient one. There will be no cost to you. We will buy the bulbs in bulk, and then you get them for free, as long as you give us the old one.
The county executive also proposes that
we use $2 million from our 2025 surplus to help first-time homebuyers pay down interest points on their mortgage. Paying down points can drastically reduce a monthly mortgage and save tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars over the life of the mortgage.
And announced that ErieNet has signed on its first 2 providers to tap into the county network.
GoNet Speed, one of the largest independent internet providers in the Northeast, and Cogent, a national telecom carrier, have each agreed to tap into the ErieNet service system to deliver final mile services to homes and businesses across Erie County.
What's the timeline for that? Can you give us any more details of the ErieNet project overall?
Well, we're going to be able to light it, so to speak, in portions. So later this summer, we're going to actually be able to light it for the county and some of the governments. If things go well, GoNet Speed's going to be able to tap into the system this fall.
Erie County legislator Lindsay Larigo provided the Republican response to the county executive's address.
Reaction, I think it was kind of an underwhelming state of the county, to be perfectly honest with you.
Citing that the county executive missed the mark on truly making Erie County more affordable for residents.
I think there was a lot of talk about affordability, and Mark's proposed answer is spending more tax dollars to make it more affordable to live in the county. I completely and totally fundamentally disagree with that approach.
Especially with the light bulb buyback program.
When he's talking about spending the surplus, which is money that we overtaxed citizens on buying light bulbs for a turn-in program, I think you are completely out of touch with what Erie County residents want.
And she says Republicans aren't holding their breath about ErieNet.
And I'll be curious to see when we have, over $20 million spent and 6 or 7 years later we don't have anybody hooked up. I think it's not a great program, and what is the infrastructure cost going to look like down the road?
I think that it is absolutely disgusting, absolutely horrifying that people would have the absolute audacity to call my phone and threaten me. So here it is. I am not in favor of this hire.
Buffalo Councilwoman Zanetta Everhart speaking on Monday as the mayor's nominee for police commissioner was questioned.
But I will not be intimidated, nor will I ever be threatened to sway my vote for political favor in this city.
That comment caught the attention of Republican State Assemblyman Paul Bologna.
I don't think she should be strong-armed in any way, shape, or form, or threatened with a vote on approval.
He sits on the Committee on Cities in the Assembly.
And putting political pressure on sitting members of the Buffalo City Common Council. It's a very concerning allegation.
He sent a letter to Mayor Ryan stating that the allegations create the appearance of undue political influence. The $250,000 salary is also a concern. Bologna knows the city is broke and asking for state help.
My constituents, who are not city residents, are going to be paying for that request.
He wrote to Ryan that these issues go to the heart of public confidence in city government and responsible stewardship of taxpayer resources.
You live in Clarence. This is the city of Buffalo. People are going to wonder and ask, why are you so concerned?
And I remember a time when there was Assemblyman Sean Ryan, and he was very concerned about IDAs in Clarence and other. But you mean to tell me that you couldn't find a singular person from the West New York region, anyone on the police force right now? So again, I have concerns about transparency.
Bologna says answers are needed before he considers a municipal bailout for Buffalo. On your side, Claudine Ewing, Channel 2 News.
Last December, U.S. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy said New York is the worst offender among the states for what he says is noncompliance with federal rules covering the process of issuing those CDLs to undocumented individuals for tractor-trailer operation. Last week, he followed through on a threat to pull $73 million in federal transportation, highway, and infrastructure money from the Empire State. A spokesman for the New York DMV said Secretary Duffy was, quote, lying in December and knew that the state was following federal rules for those CDLs. So now GOP Representative Nick Langworthy jumping in with a letter to Governor Hochul saying she and state leaders should reach out to try to resolve this dispute.
It's real money, and those highway dollars are needed to take care of the roads in our communities. So, I would like to see, her send her senior leadership to the senior leadership at DOT and iron this out.
Langworthy also says this is a significant safety issue with those CDLs issued to someone driving an 80,000-pound big rig on the highways or local roads, as they cite major accidents with allegedly undocumented drivers who also may not have English proficiency. And this apparently goes hand in hand with Border Patrol arrests of over 30 truck drivers from various countries at Western New York truck stops last fall.
A driver remaining licensed after their legal status expires makes it harder to track, locate, or re-verify them.
State of California in a similar dispute and funding threat with the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration says it was forced to revoke over 13,000 so-called non-domicile or non-citizen CDL licenses despite lawsuits. So for New York,
they should be revoked and canceled right away. There's no necessity for us to be hiring illegal immigrants as over-the-road truck drivers.
New York again contending it does follow federal rules and will fight against this political pattern of federal funds withholding by Secretary Duffy.
Catherine Scaglione is in a jam.
So I've paid every year close to $1,700 a year for insurance, and I have no car for it.
Her car was parked along Prospect Avenue Wednesday night, where moments before officers walked up on an armed robbery in progress at the 7-Eleven at Prospect and Connecticut Street and ended up shooting the suspect, now identified as 42-year-old Jawan Williams, after Williams allegedly pointed a gun at them. Williams is then accused of stealing a car and driving it for 3 blocks before it crashed right into her 2018 Chevy Impala. It was totaled. She got on the phone with her insurance carrier only to be told she's not covered for this.
I have a basic plan, so when it came down to it, I found out through the insurance company that I have no coverage at all with my car, and I'm not in it. So I only have coverage if I'm liable.
She bought the car from a relative, did not finance it through a bank, and opted not to carry collision or comprehensive coverage on the vehicle.
I don't know if I would have been able to afford it, even if I wanted it. And also the statistics of having your car totaled by some stranger is minimal, but not impossible. So I took the risk, and that was my downfall.
She can't go after the owner of the car that hit hers because it was stolen. She imagines she can't go after Williams either.
At this point, I feel like it's a lost cause, because if the gentleman's taking over a 7-Eleven, he probably doesn't have enough food for himself, let alone good insurance, even a car. You stole a vehicle.
But she remains in good spirits despite the hand that fate dealt her.
If I don't laugh, I might cry, but it's just, I learned now that I won't be parking on the street. I'll find a way to park in the back more, and I won't be putting myself at risk. And probably when I get different insurance, I'll read the fine print and make sure I have proper coverage.
We've been getting messages into our newsroom and online about that strange chlorine or chemical smell that had been lingering here in Western New York, leaving many people not only curious but concerned. We're talking areas like North Buffalo, Amherst, and even Tonawanda. One viewer said she was getting out of her car yesterday and was hit with the smell of chlorine. We can confirm right now that the Department of Environmental Conservation is looking into what may have caused this after getting numerous complaints, but we have not gotten any answers from them just yet. I did speak to one Williamsville resident who said the smell hit her yesterday morning before dropping her kids off at school.
And it kind of smelled like chlorine in a way. And I was like, our neighbor has a pool. And I kind of looked over, I'm like, it's a little early in the year to be opening his pool, but it wasn't open. And then I smelled it a couple more times and it was really strong. And I looked, kind of around to see if maybe somebody was spraying a lawn, something like that. Nobody was spraying. So I'm like, I don't really want to be smelling whatever this is.
We will update you with the latest once we hear more from the DEC. Right now, they say the investigation is ongoing. On your side, in the newsroom, Melissa Clausel, Channel 2 News.
The most important thing that we're looking for is justice. Nothing else, no less, no more.
A call for answers in the case of Jalen Griffin on what would have been his 18th birthday. Family members, community activists, and local groups gathering today outside the Buffalo Police Department, saying they want the help of the FBI.
Bring in investigators that they may search and they may go outside the boundaries that we have been going to find justice for Jalen Griffin.
They want the Crime Stoppers reward increased from $7,500 to $25,000.
Somebody remembered and somebody knows something, but why would they come forward if there's no incentive?
Pastor Tim Newkirk says the higher reward could help generate new information.
It's not about the money, it's about the person. A 12-year-old kid, what is the price to seek justice for a 12-year-old kid?
This should not come down to money for people to cooperate with the police when it's a homicide of a child.
Buffalo Police Interim Commissioner Craig Macy saying the FBI has been a partner throughout this investigation.
The FBI has been involved for several years. There's different periods where we are sharing information.
The family says no matter what, they'll stop at nothing, calling for solutions that may lead investigators to whoever is responsible for Jalen's death.
I don't have closure until someone's brought to justice.
As the adult use cannabis program grows in New York, the Office of Cannabis Management is always adapting. Patrick McCage is the Executive Deputy Director for Regulatory Operation. He says the state's busy cracking down on illegal marijuana shops.
This is one of those things, it takes a village. So we have an incident report form that's on our website. You should be able to use it, cannabis.ny.gov. Anyone can go on that form and report an illicit dispensary. This is how we actually get a lot of our tips coming in from the public and other licensees who see a location, open up near them. It then goes to our enforcement team who puts it in the queue to do an inspection.
McCage says the state has ordered close to 600 illegal cannabis shops to close so far, and soon a new legal option will spring up. Cannabis showcase event permits are coming.
This would allow sales of cannabis at certain events outside of a licensed dispensary. At our April board meeting, the board actually approved the regulations, kind of authorizing these event permits. And so we expect in the next couple of weeks to be launching those event permit applications where our licensees can apply for. They do need to receive municipal approval in order to conduct one of these events. So we're encouraging folks, go out, talk to your municipalities now, start making those connections, and be on the lookout for the application opening.
Jury selection in the case against Hadi Matar on these federal terrorism charges could start June 16th. But as we learned today in federal court, there are a number of factors that could push that date back.
The first is a recent ruling from the Second Circuit Court of Appeals involving a terrorism case brought in 2017 against a 31-year-old man convicted of detonating a homemade bomb in a New York City subway station. Akayed Ullah was sentenced to 3 life terms for what prosecutors called an ISIS-inspired attack. And while the sentence was upheld, the court reversed 1 count of providing material support to a terrorist organization, finding that while Ullah believed he was a soldier for ISIS, they did not direct his actions. Judge Richard Arcara instructing both sides in this case to see how that might impact Hadi Matar's trial. The prosecution says it may call an expert witness to demonstrate that Matar embraced Hezbollah in efforts to carry out a religious order to kill Rushdie. I asked Matar's assigned counsel how the Second Circuit's ruling could impact the case.
Charge-wise is similar to our case, but in any event, the court wants to make sure that counsel takes a look at that along with the government. Quite frankly, there's just it's a little bit of a feeling out period, and then we'll see where we are in the next couple of weeks.
Barone has a personal matter that may also impact the timing of the trial. The judge said he'd like to hear from Matar at their next court appearance.
Judge Arcara has scheduled a follow-up hearing for May 12th, although an earlier update could be provided by Mr. Barone before that. On your side, reporting outside federal court in Buffalo, Rob Hackford, Channel 2 News.
The question at the center of today's status conference was who will actually make it onto the jury and who will be excused. With 3,000 jury questionnaires sent out to potential jurors, both sides have been reviewing responses ahead of an in-person selection process. Today, Gendron's defense team argued that some responses need a closer look before potential jurors are dismissed. That includes people like out-of-state students, caretakers for children with disabilities, and small business owners. U.S. District Judge Lawrence Villardo agreed, saying those people should be brought in for the in-person selection process so that they may further provide more detail on why they'd like to be excused. But the judge did draw a line when it came to healthcare workers. He sided with excusing those who said serving would hurt their patients, and that includes doctors and nurse practitioners. Judge Villardo also said he will excuse active medical students and residents from this jury selection process. He expressed concerns that bringing in these people for jury duty would create what he called societal problems. The judge says this process will likely repeat as they continue reviewing these responses, and both sides will be back in court for another status conference on May 21st. On your side, Alyssa Clausel, Channel 2 News.
In years prior to Gerace being charged, agents had conducted raids and attempted to make undercover buys at Farrell's, with neither yielding any evidence of drug activity there. But during the trial, the government produced nearly 30 witnesses, former dancers, staffers, and customers, who all swore that the use and sale of drugs was rampant inside the club. With no drugs ever seized, as part of this case, the probation department, in preparing its pre-sentencing report, extrapolated a number based on the testimony of those witnesses. It deduced that at least 1 gram of cocaine was trafficked at Farrell's per day for the length of the conspiracy charged, which was 14 years. That adds up to enough to put Gerace, who just turned 58, in prison for the rest of his life. While Judge Lawrence Villardo raised questions regarding the methodology used to come up with that guesstimate, prosecutors suggest the number is actually conservative.
For many, starting a family doesn't come easy, and it's a journey more people are facing.
1 in 6 couples will struggle to get pregnant, and that's a newer statistic. Back even 10 years ago, the rates for infertility were 1 in 8. People would have trouble getting pregnant, and now it's 1 in 6. So that is definitely somebody you know has had a struggle to get pregnant or needs help to get pregnant.
At Buffalo Infertility and IVF Associates, providers say there's no one-size-fits-all story behind infertility. From conditions like endometriosis to patients starting families later in life, or even those navigating cancer. Nurse practitioner Colby Damon says the need for care is wide-ranging.
And it's so important to highlight the struggles and the hope of these people, because not everyone's story looks the same. And we want to make sure that people know that they are more than their fertility journey.
While treatment options from medications to IVF continue to advance, there's still a stigma surrounding fertility struggles and seeking help.
And it's hard because we feel that this is a medical diagnosis and we want to help people get pregnant, but there is still a really large stigma attached to people who are doing fertility treatments.
That's why this week is about more than awareness. Providers hope sharing stories, wearing the color orange, and expanding access to care will help more families feel supported on their journey.
I tell my patients all the time, I totally understand the emotional roller coaster you're on. I've been there. I've done all of these treatments. My twins were conceived using IVF. So I can empathize the roller coaster that this takes for you to get to the finish line. There are a lot of people out there that have been in these patients' shoes. And I think that's important for our patients to know that they aren't alone.
On your side, Lauren Hall, Channel 2 News.
New York's Raise the Age law prevents most 16 and 17-year-olds from being automatically charged as adults. Lawmakers wanted to focus on rehabilitation rather than punishment. But with the amount of stolen cars and chases, people who have had their cars taken from driveways by unlicensed teens say this Raise the Age law needs to change. One lawmaker agrees.
Law enforcement has basically been begging for adjustments to bail reform and raise the age, and they haven't gotten it. And the stolen car crisis that we're seeing is quite literally a result of that. there has to be consequences for action.
And New York State Police tell me many of the cases this week were repeat offenders.
But a lot of the people who continue to do this type of crime are the same individuals, just reciprocating over and over again.
I think that raise the age needs to be looked at and addressed this year, like now.
But the governor has stood by the raise the age law. In her latest budget proposal, she rejected claims that the policy is too lenient. The Coalition to Protect Raise the Age fully supports the law as it stands on their website. They say calls to roll back parts of the Raise the Age law to prosecute 16 and 17-year-olds as adults won't make our community safer. Former Erie County DA John Flynn is also sounding off on the matter.
The legislature has taken proactive measures on changing bail, on changing discovery, and on changing other penal laws that they have tweaked over the course of the past 10 years. They have not touched raise the age.
And he believes until it's addressed, the stolen cars and cases like we saw of kids pulling guns on police may continue.
I'm not advocating throwing every kid in jail, all right? I mean, I'm not saying, throw away the key. I'm just saying that we need some common sense measures to have some kind of accountability or some kind of punishment so they know better.
USS the Sullivan sadly looked like this back in April 2022 as river water flooded through the deteriorating razor-thin steel hull of the historic destroyer, which was saved, but with more subsequent leaks in the Sullivans and the adjacent Croker submarine. Both of them require those dry dock repairs, just like this video when you see another historic submarine at the shipyard in Erie, Pennsylvania. But first, to prevent more environmental damage to the Buffalo River, there was a coordinated effort by the state DEC, Coast Guard, and City of Buffalo for a contractor under a $1 million state funding contract to pump out residual oily water and diesel fuel from both ships after leaks were found last month.
It's approximately 125,000 gallons from the USS Croker and approximately 100,000 gallons from the USS Sullivan.
And now that same process for the much bigger ship, the cruiser Little Rock at the Naval Park, so that they can all be safely moved. Really, just the first step.
This is a big and complex effort. There are inevitably many challenging steps ahead, including the dredging of the areas immediately around the ship, the movement of the vessels, which will be a bit of a dance as we move out the Little Rock, move the ships out, and eventually move the Little Rock back in place to await the return of her sister ships.
That complicated dredging of the river near the ships might start later this summer. Then the actual on-lake towing, perhaps in the fall or next spring, of both the Sullivans and Croker to that Erie shipyard for the 4 to 9 month repair project, with federal and state grant money involved.
Right now, roughly $20 million is pledged and in the process of being dispersed.
Can you do the job realistically, do you feel, for that amount, or are you concerned about overruns?
Right now, based on the recommendations of our experts, they feel that we're on track.